Hey, everybody, Dr. Meri Crouley for Now is the Time. I've got a good friend and a woman I love, Ann VANDERSTEEL. She actually has a foundation called American Made Foundation and the host of Steel News. We're going to be talking today about CPS, and there's some legislation and some things that we are putting the light onto that are very interesting that you're going to want to really know all about this and really get into the game. But before we do that, today's program is sponsored by Exodus Strong. Let's roll that commercial, please.
Feeling tired even after a full night of sleep? You're not alone. Millions struggle with low energy, brain fog, and inflammation every day. And it's not your fault. The modern world wears down your mind, body, and spirit. But what if there was a natural way to feel energized again? Meet Exodus, a breakthrough supplement powered by 7 biblical ingredients and enhanced by the modern science of molecular hydrogen. This unique formula helps restore your energy, reduce inflammation, and renew your vitality naturally. Real people are already seeing the difference. Exodus Strong has been a game changer for me. After just a week, I noticed better sleep, improved focus, and no more afternoon crashes. Go from fatigue to vitality with Exodus. Visit exodusstrong.com/MERI and start your journey today.
Yeah, so go to exodusstrongs.com, put my promo code Meri right in the middle of America, and you'll get a great discount. It really does work. So anyway, Ann, good to see you again.
Meri, always good to see you. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, no, we've been all over the country doing things. Reawaken America, my Open the Heavens event. You've been doing stuff. So explain what's going on now. I felt led to reach out to you, and you're talking about CPS. I mean, I'm very, very familiar with CPS and the corruption that has gone out with them. There's a few good people in that system, but why don't you explain how you got into this journey, Ann?
Well, it's, sadly, we hear about CPS stories everywhere, and I've covered CPS stories for the better part of a decade now as an investigative journalist with a podcast going back to 2016. The stories just never seem to end. The amount of families and children, at any given moment, we have over 400,000 children that have been removed and are in the custody of, I would say, the demons and Child Protective Services under various different state agencies, whether it's Department of Children and Families, Department of Social Services, whatever you want to call it. We have a problem, and they are really the largest child traffickers in our country today. And just understanding that and the destruction of the family, because you can't MAGA unless the families are strong. You can't make America great if our families are suffering. And so I partnered several years ago with Maureen Steele, and we decided to start a foundation called American Made Foundation. And we focus on agency corruption. And we decided to start with our focus on Child Protective Services. It is funded out of the federal government, out of your Social Security Administration, which falls under Secretary Kennedy's Health and Human Services. Title 4E funding, Title 4D and B and all this stuff. It's an $81 billion plus a year industry, essentially, where this money flows right out of Social Security into the 50 states, into the various agencies under the umbrella of Child Protective Services. The parasitic organizations that have made billions of dollars on the backs of destroying families don't have any incentive to reunify families. And what we've also learned, Meri, which is really quite astonishing and extraordinary and just demonic at the heart of it all, is that 95% of the cases where children are removed and placed into foster care or adopted out, whatever, they don't even meet the legal threshold. In other words, the violations of the family's fundamental rights to parent, constitutional due process, et cetera, all completely thrown out the window and ignored. And so these children are removed without proper, family, a jury of your peers, for instance. And these are the types of things we're addressing. So we've actually, decided to start this foundation not only as a C3, but also as a C4. One, so we can educate under our C3, and hence we do documentaries. We've written books about the subject. But our C4 allows us to take action in a legislative process and facilitate the writing of legislation to address the atrocities of Child Protective Services, thus increasing the threshold so that families' fundamental rights to parent can still be met and the amount of removals can be reduced by 95%. So this is our focus because, as I said in the beginning, you can't MAGA unless you're MAFA, and you got to make families great again.
Well, and the thing that people don't know about CPS, they're not even a governmental organization.
No,
So
no.
oftentimes, they'll maybe get a call. If they come to your door, do not let them in. I mean, do not let them into your house, because once you get into that system, it's very corrupt. And the family court systems, too, are very much involved. It's a big pay to play scheme. And there was a movie that came out that Steve Peters did a few years back called These Little Ones, that baby Cyrus out of Boise, Idaho. My daughter moved up to Idaho, and she's up there. So you were involved in that case too. Why don't we share a little bit about baby Cyrus, and then we'll go into the other case that you've been working on, the Rivera family.
Sure. I wasn't involved in trying to restore the family's rights to parent. I reported on it. So I want to be very clear about that. But again, the baby Cyrus case, the Rivera family case, the Deagle family case, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of cases where families' rights to due process, to be heard by a jury of your peers, gets ignored in these really private family courts. Like you said, where the pay to play is evident. I've talked to whistleblowers that can talk about PayPal, Venmo, and bags of cash between judges and social workers and attorneys to make sure that these cases just continue on in the court system without any resolution. They continue to move the carrot in front of the family. If you do this, then you'll get extra visitation with your children. Or if you do that, you should get your children back in 6 months. Whatever it is, it's a continual moving window that the parents never seem to cross and get through in order to reestablish relationships. And frankly, seeing your children for an hour a week makes it really impossible to maintain any sort of integrity as a parent in a parent-child relationship. So, when you've documented these stories over and over and over, it became incumbent upon us and for Maureen and I to say, you know what? We need to do something about this. We need to fix this, like General Flynn says, locally at the state level, because local action will have a national impact. And we have, now networked together a group of really powerful women, Mary, from Connie Reguli, who is an incredible attorney, and she's working at the federal level. Kimberly Fletcher, president of Moms for America. Emily Peterson, who's the state chapter leader in Iowa for Moms for America, and a whole host of other women that are coming together from Florida and around the country to create this legislation, which is why when Maureen and I said we have to fix this at a local level, we said, let's start with writing legislation that can be easily adopted. So we've drafted the Family Rights and Child Welfare Due Process Reform Act. And really, it restores constitutional protections to parents and to children by tightening the emergency removal standards, like I said. So you can't just go in and rip a child out. It's going to guarantee meaningful hearings, in other words, jury of your peers. And it's going to force the elevations of the burdens of proof, meaning that it's not just hearsay anymore, as in with the Rivera family. This is how diabolical all this is. They took their 9-month-old child, the youngest of 5 children, that are in a very loving home in Massachusetts, to the pediatrician. And the pediatrician said to the father, your son needs a vitamin K shot. Now, you can't even find that on the vaccine schedule, right? And so this is a vitamin K shot. It's a supplement. And because the father said no for religious purposes, that pediatrician, who is a mandated reporter with the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts, made a report. And that started a cascade of events that ended up with both parents being arrested in Texas, held for a month in jail for $2.5 million bond. And then they were extradited back to Massachusetts, where they were then also incarcerated, had to raise bail to get out. And the mother and father were found guilty of kidnapping their own children. I mean, this is insane, total insanity. So this is the kind of stuff that the courts make millions of dollars on, as you are well aware, and it has to stop. It's disruptive to the family. It's catastrophic to these small children. They don't understand what's going on. And, ultimately they start blaming the parents because they think the parents are the ones to cause the problems and are abandoning them. So
you have a clip. Let's roll that clip about this Rivera family. Let's roll that.
Great WRKO, Jeff Cooner, Boston's bulldozer. There is going to be a rally to reunite the Rivera family. Let's get the Riveras back together again. They deserve to have custody of their children.
I just got out from the jail right now, and because of losing everything in this situation, because of DCF and I guess all the parties involved, I've been living in my car while supporting my family from a distance.
Maureen Steele and I with American Made Foundation landed here in Marblehead, Massachusetts, where our American Navy was established hundreds of years ago. Boston, where the Tea Party erupted into a spirited battle called the American Revolution, a fight for our independence. And yet today, are we really free? Does the state have control of your assets, namely your children? Well, we are back again in Massachusetts because the fight continues on for sovereignty. And we're taking a deep look into Child Protective Services and the organization run by the state of Massachusetts known as the Department of Children and Families.
CPS.
Wow. Nancy Schaefer, and pretty much Nancy Schaefer was a state senator from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
She had many of her, people in her state that came to her, and she was checking into it, really doing a deep dive on it when I believe that she was murdered. Her husband, Bruce, who was married over 50 years, they set it up where it looked like, he killed her and then killed himself. But all I can say is that what do you know about Nancy Schaefer?
She was a hero. There's no question about it. She was out there before you had the internet to sort of be the megaphone to back you up and get the information out quickly before somebody could silence you. And she was out there, standing, posting on a beachhead saying, we have got a real problem with child trafficking, and it stems directly out of our own child protective services, out of the federal government, out of the state government. And, when you're out there as the only person saying something, you become a target. Today, there are many of us out here talking about this, and the evidence is, you can see it in court documents, you can see it in news clippings, you can see it when you interview the families and you see the children, and you can tell. I mean, children aren't Hollywood actors. They're not trained to lie. And when children are interviewed and they talk about the situation that CPS has created, it becomes very obvious who is at fault here and who isn't. And so again, Nancy Schaefer, I say, is a hero, and she really set the bar high for those of us that are coming in behind her to actually fix the problem. It's one thing to report on it, Mary, and I know you do a lot of reporting in child trafficking. It's another thing to actually try and fix it. And that's where I've decided to hang up my daily journalist hat as doing a nightly TV show with news coverage, because thank goodness there are millions of other people coming in now to do this work. But let's get into the terms of activism, and let's start writing legislation. Let's start acting as our government would have us do, our founding fathers, in terms of civic duty. And so I just can't say enough of gratitude towards Nancy Schaefer, because she did, pave the way.
Now, what happened to the Riveras? Was it a daughter or a son?
It was their son. It really just a terrible story. This child is an absolutely precious little baby boy. And, the Rivera family are, when you see videos and you see pictures of the kids and you meet the family, you can just see the amount of love that the family has for one another. And when you recognize that a pediatrician, by the way, who is an Iranian-born, Iranian-trained pediatrician, who felt very strongly that this child should get a vitamin K shot. And as you know, and I know, there is no law that says you have to give this shot to your child the day it's born or any other time. There's no laws that say you have to take these vaccines. You have choices. You can opt out. And I'm glad to see Secretary Kennedy helping and facilitate in that particular area. It's a huge industry he's trying to tackle. It's corrupt to the core, big pharma, as you know. But the Rivera family, unfortunately, were the victims of a pediatrician who decided he knew better and was going to enforce something that had absolutely no bearance in the court of law. So badly that when he mandatedly reported, or I should say he decided to enforce his mandated reporter status and report them over a vitamin K shot, CPS should have said, oh, this doesn't meet the requirements for taking a child. Instead, they use that to get a foot in the door, to try and interview the family, see the kids, and instead of just trying to look after one child who was clearly healthy from the bill of health issued by the pediatrician, nothing wrong with the baby, they went after the rest of the children. And it became so harassing that the children said, we don't even feel comfortable living in our state anymore, so we're going to go to Texas. And they left and went to Texas. And that's when CPS decided to have a judge signed off warrant, a bench warrant for their arrest. and sent that issue for arrest, that warrant for arrest to Texas. And Texas really should have validated the authenticity of a warrant based on the fact that they were saying this child needed a vitamin K shot. That warrant never should have been issued. But they didn't do their job either, and they sent the marshals in to arrest the Rivera family at gunpoint in front of their small 5 children, ages 10 and under, and hold mom and dad in prison for a month in Texas for $2.5 million each. I mean, that's just so over the top. It's such an overreach of the parents' fundamental rights to parent their children as they see fit that we feel compelled to sue the state of Massachusetts in federal court over the violations of constitutional due process, not only naming the judges and the clerks and the members of the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, but also the people in Texas involved in this transgression against these parents' fundamental rights and constitutional due process. So this is going to be a landmark lawsuit, and I expect that this will get dragged out in court for as long as possible, but we're not going to let the headlines get buried. We're going to make sure everybody knows what's going on, so more people will stand up and fight back.
Now, did the Riveras have their children back?
They do. They do. They finally got their children back. I've done some reporting on this, but the court finally found the mother not guilty of parental and familial kidnapping. Izzy Rivera's case, the father's case, is still Ruth is not guilty, but Izzy is still waiting the final verdict from his case on parental and familial kidnapping. He should have been expunged as soon as she was, because they were both together at the time. But this is how the family courts work, right? They drag this out, anything they can to put a period or a placeholder to push off to the next month, and then the next month and the next month. It is the most incredibly asinine, slow rolling way to rape your bank account and your trust fund through the court system. And as you probably know, every single case number gets assigned to QSIP, and it turns into a tradable bond on the internet or in municipal funds around the country. So this is just another example of the rape and pillage of the American family, American taxpayer, all at the expense of us, we the people that are paying for this demise. We're walking ourselves into the gallows every time we send the federal government a check, because this is how they're weaponizing the system against us. And when you have cut and dry cases, a fact pattern like the Riveras, it is so self-evident now that the state of Massachusetts and the federal government owes the Rivera family a lot, because they can't get back, the year that they lost with their children. Just totally horrific.
Well, and a lot of this started from when my research is when Bill Clinton signed in the Adoption and Safe Families Act in the 90s.
Right.
And, like Hillary there, her takes a village. We need to dismantle this CPS system because it's been corrupt. And like you talked about the bonds, I have a case of a gal that I know that, she has a 7-year-old daughter that literally she was having some issues. The daughter was coming home from, I guess they had custody, joint custody, and was saying that she was being, violated. There was problems. So as a mother, she was trying to protect her daughter. And this baby daddy, because they never got married, hired a lawyer that was worth $500,000 a year to retain. And I mean, it looked to me like almost a trafficking situation. And now today, this particular girl, I don't want to say her name, is Ashley. They're trying to get her parental rights removed today in court.
There's cases. I mean, there's Joe Zuroff's case down in the Panhandle in South Florida. This is a case of a little girl who has a medical issue, and the mother wants to treat the daughter the way she wants to treat her. Is decided to go and not listen to the pediatrician, not listen to the doctor. She has her own solution that she feels comfortable with. This goes back to the fundamental right of parenting. This is a civil rights issue. I think it's hiding right there in plain sight for everybody to see. Parents and children have fundamental constitutional rights to the family integrity, for the family to make decisions on behalf of their children. And again, in these child welfare courts, those rights, they're just routinely stripped without any juries. I mean, we should never be brought in front of a bench with a state appointed, a court appointed prosecutor and a court appointed defender without juries, without any evidence, and without meaningful hearings. This is just, the families get their, rights terminated all the time. And the termination of the parental rights basically is the civil death penalty, if you will. I mean, that's essentially what it is, because you are now terminating the right of that bond And this is just so antithetical to what God had intended. Now, I'm not saying that all cases aren't bad. Are there some families that the parents are, psychopaths? Yeah. But let's look back 250 years, Mary. When a family was in distress, right? And you lived in a little village, who helped you? Did the government come running in, or did your neighbors help you?
Neighbors.
Yeah, it's like that when you have a natural disaster. I live in a hurricane state. FEMA doesn't show up in 5 minutes, but my neighbors do when a tree blows on the roof of my house. This is what we have to get back to. We have been brainwashed to believe that we need the state or the federal government to come in and support us in our hour of need. And we believe that we need to report people that we think are bad to the state, as opposed to, hey, let me go and talk to my neighbor, or let me go talk to the neighbor next to the guy I think's in trouble and see if they notice the same thing. Where did the humanity go? Where did our sense of community go? It was dissolved because we've been brainwashed to believe we have to do what the federal government says. That is completely opposite of what God intended in the Bible, what our Constitution and our Bill of Rights enumerate, which are our God-given rights. This has all been wiped away because we've been brainwashed to believe the nanny state is going to take care of us. And therein lies a big problem. It's education for people to understand their fundamental rights. And then, of course, it's dissolving the ability of the federal government and the state government to overreach into interfering with those fundamental rights. So here's where our foundation is, keenly focused on.
Well, so now, and there's people listening, and this is shocking for a lot of people because they really don't know. Like, first of all, CPS, anybody can call CPS. The baby Cyrus case, that was another physician that called because the mother was sick that day and called in, she couldn't go because she was not feeling well. And this pediatrician called, CPS, same kind of thing. And thank God that they had they just immediately, the grandfather, I think, stepped in and really they made a lot of noise. And eventually the case was dropped. But this could happen anywhere to anyone.
Absolutely.
What do they do, Ann? And what do they do if somebody gets a call and CPS is knocking at your door?
Don't answer the door. Literally, do not answer the door. You do not have to speak to these people. You do not have to let them in your home. Simply do not answer the door. They will have to reach out to you another way. They'll have to leave notes in your mailbox. They'll have to do whatever. They will probably try to engage law enforcement at some level to do that. But if law enforcement shows up and you answer the door for law enforcement, ask them to show you the warrant. Where does it say that you have to let these people in your home? They have to get, and this is a reason our legislation is so critical. We have to raise the bar, the threshold for these bench warrants to be issued. And right now, it's all hearsay. We can't operate like that based on hearsay. So, again, a pediatrician, you think just like, if we haven't learned anything from COVID, the one thing we have learned is you just don't trust the guy in the white coat and a stethoscope carte blanche. You've got to ask questions. We're now learning about all the different treatments and cures for cancer that were considered blasphemy and horse dewormers and all that stuff. No, they actually work. I'm living proof of it. So, this is where Americans have got to start engaging with the discernment and think, ask yourself, really, what would Jesus do in this situation? Would Jesus just allow the bad guy into his home? No, you know what I mean? You've got to immunize yourself from this stuff. And if you know you're not doing anything wrong, you have rights that you can stand on. And Mary, I want to also mention this because I think this is where people don't fully understand the domino effect of what happens when you remove a child. Thus, the removal itself alone is trauma. And the data proves it, right? So you have the psychological aspects, right? The science there is cleared. When you have forced separation, it is going to cause toxic stress and lifelong harm. Over 85% of foster children are placed on psychotropic drugs, often to treat the trauma caused by the removal itself. So now think about that. Your child is going to be stressed out and traumatized by the removal. And because they're so traumatized, and now that you don't have control of your children, your fundamental rights have been stripped, somebody else is making the decisions. Well, we know Big Pharma loves to prescribe, and they're going to be in bed and cozying up to anybody that can potentially bring them a customer. So if you have a child traumatized, they're saying, oh, this child is too traumatized. Let's just put him on drugs. So tens of thousands of children, by the way, they go missing from these foster care facilities nationally every year. And that's what I would consider true institutional harm. So you've got psychotropic drugs, you have missing children. These emergency removals,
plus many of them are molested.
They become trafficked. They absolutely become trafficked. The horror stories of foster homes that have turned into trafficking dens. of iniquity are numerous. So we can't
You know,
make this
because people get
routine.
paid. I mean, many of these there's some really good foster parents, so we're not gonna throw them all in to,
Correct.
but there is a lot of them that get money for taking these children,
That's right.
and a lot of them are molested. I mean, there's so many stories about this. Then at 18, they're just put out in the street. There's no program for them after they turn 18, and so many of them now don't have anywhere to go, and then they're like lure for the traffickers as well.
That's exactly right. It's all about following the money. If you follow the money, you're going to understand the system. The federal funding currently rewards foster care volume. They don't reward reunification. They reward adoptions, meaning your child's gone. Now we're adopting it out somewhere else. You had no, constitutional due process rights to be heard by a jury and actually have it deliberated as to whether you really were an unfit parent. So this perverse incentive to remove children and delay reunification, that is what our bill is rejecting. We are going to absolutely reject the adoption bonus money. We're going to be rejecting the, removal payments aspect of it. And we're shifting the incentives to actually family preservation and accurate case closures, because there is no accuracy in any of this. So this whole notion that the government can come in and do this has got to change dramatically. And that's where we work with organizations like America's Future, because as I said just a few minutes ago, it was the village, it was your neighbors that came to your rescue in times of need. And if you have a family in distress, immediate family members should be called in to facilitate help. And if they don't have any, the next best solution are your local community members, your churches, your 4-H clubs, your Lions Club, whatever you have, your organization of community around you. This is what America's Future is focused on, is working with the churches to get them to stand up and be that support mechanism for the families in the communities that are in distress, not the state. Because again, the churches don't have unlimited money like the state does. So they are not going to be incentivized to keep the families separated. They have all the incentive to keep the family together and reunify and solve whatever that problem is. So, this is why I feel so strongly about what we're doing with our foundation, because we are genuinely looking for solutions. While we're educating and using media judiciously, we're very focused on solving the problem.
Well, and I know some churches now that, some friends of mine are involved with, that they're encouraging their, congregants to become foster care, to become foster parents, and they are. So we have to get good foster parents that can come in there too and help these kids.
Exactly.
Because many of them are being taken in this family court situation. What I've seen with this one case that I'm involved with, she's gone through 9 attorneys, because this other attorney that was, worth $500,000 to hire, they keep badgering the new attorneys or the attorneys, and then they just use up all the funds.
Yeah.
And then they quit, and they don't want to become, I guess, with the judges. A lot of these judges, there's 6 of the judges in Orange County in California here that are being under investigation. And so these judges are getting paid. It's pay to play.
Yeah. Is that different anywhere else in the country, Mary? I mean,
so what can the average person do? Okay, you've got this legislation. What can they do? The ones that are watching, what can they do right now, Anne?
Are you inferring that the CPS is already involved in their families' lives, or what's the?
Well, just as a person that has children, grandchildren, and that they want to make a difference at this point, can they? I know you have a book about this.
Yeah.
So what is the name of the book, and where can they purchase it, first of all?
You can purchase the book on Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. It's called CPS Pipeline, State Sanctioned Kidnapping. It's $7 for the Kindle version, or $14 for the actual paperback version. It's a very easy read. It's really designed to be a primer. It was written by Maureen Steele, myself, and our 3rd board member, who happens to be an attorney, Christopher Burns, who is absolutely brilliant. But this book is designed to give you an education on how the system works, what it's designed to do and not do, which is what we've covered here, but also how you can immunize yourself. We have a bonus chapter in there where KL, who is a brilliant gentleman that's affiliated with our organization, in fact, we have a Zoom call with him open to the public this Friday. And he's going to be talking about income tax. But and you can find links to that on my social media. It'll be posted on our website, AmericanMadeFoundation.org, as well. But this the ability to protect your children comes down to using the same statutory system that unfortunately we are all subject to, because some people just don't know enough to correct their status and get into the land. So when you're dealing with the statutory system, you've got to understand and operate in the statutory system. And you can use what's called the Uniform Commercial Code to set liens up on your kids, on your children, so that you become the first lien holder. Because the way the state looks at all this is that you're property of the state vis-a-vis birth certificates, et cetera. And so if you place a lien on your children, when they come to take the children and basically tap into their trust fund, their Social Security trust fund, to finance this child trafficking operation, I'll call it what it is, they are now second place. So it stops them cold in their tracks, and it does provide immunization. But again, this information and more is available in the book.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, so put up that where they can get the book again, or your website. They can get it there or on Amazon.
Yeah,
So,
you can go to AmericanMadeFoundation.org, or if you just Google on Amazon for CPS pipeline, state sanctioned kidnapping, it'll pop right up.
okay. Yes, it's right up there on the screen. Okay, well, Anne, as we close, thank you. Let's take that down. As we close, I mean, I have a film called Freedom Cry, Sex Trafficking in America. In 2017, when I went over to Thailand and I had a videographer, we got some incredible footage. But when I got back, God spoke to me, Anne, and he said, I don't want you to show what's happening in Thailand. I want you to show what's happening in America. And when I started interviewing people and went down the rabbit hole, I couldn't believe the system and what I saw, and a number of things. So we all have to stand up. And, a lot of people just didn't want to know, oh, this is too hard to listen to. I can't really take this. Well, let me tell you, we need to be able to listen to this kind of stuff.
We do.
It has to do with their children. And if it's not your child, it could be, your neighbors, it could be somebody you know. But once it happens in your family, it becomes a nightmare. And it's more prevalent than we know. And so, especially with these family courts, I mean, the family courts are very corrupt, and there's thousands and thousands of families that have gotten their children taken away for really no reason. And now they're fighting. Many of them only see their child maybe twice, 2 hours a week. A lot of them are getting their parental rights terminated, and their child is, who knows what's happening to them in some foster care system, or the other parent has them and abusing them. So all I'm saying, Anne, is we're at a critical time.
We are.
God said, what we do to the least of these, that you do unto him. I'll just finish with this. I had a vision years ago. I had a dream where I was on this horse with Jesus. You and I are both Christians. And I had a dream of Jesus on this horse. And I looked over and I saw these fat sheep eating this green grass. And it's in the dream. And I heard God say, that's my church, but I'm not there. And then he went to this thicket. We had to get off this horse and went down this steep embankment. And they were these lost, broken sheep. They were ensnared, and they really felt really bad. And Jesus opened the snare of this lost little lamb and lovingly picked up this wounded, lamb and said, and laughed, because he came to set the captives free. We have got to help these children, and we've got to help these families, because you were saying we cannot make America great again,
right,
if we can't keep the family healthy and together again. And that's what they're trying to do. Satan is after our families. He's after the children, and he wants to have the state run your children, and we can't do that. So last words, and what would you have to say to people that are watching right now?
Thanks, Mary. I do appreciate it, because public awareness is truly finally catching up to what families have been living for decades. Courts, agencies, legislatures, they're all being forced to reckon with what we call and what we know to be true constitutional violations hiding under this administrative language. And again, these agencies are not actual true government agencies. They're private for-profit corporations. CPS, DCF, whatever it's called, is operating as a for-profit corporation. So what we've done with our books and our movies is to help educate, but we've also taken the most important step, which is draft a bill. And this bill that we have here in Florida, which would be easily adjustable by state, by statute in every state, offers a lawful, humane, and achievable path forward. So just, if to the parents that are watching, Mary, just know you're not powerless, right? These practices persist because they are hidden, they're normalized, and they're never challenged. What you do, what I do, what many do is provide sunlight, but we need jury trials and we need due process in order to be effective and change this. So any society is always judged by how it treats its children. I think you just said that, but also by whether it respects the families that love their children. And the time for secrecy is over. I believe the time for accountability is now, and this is where we're headed.
Yes, now is the time, just like the name of my show. Well, listen, thank you so much, Anne, for coming on. Thank you for watching Now is the Time. Please go to Anne's, website, AmericanMadeFoundation.org. You can, or click on the link below, or you can also go to my website, MeriCrouley.com. We have a link to, my film, Freedom Cry, Sex Trafficking in America. And we're all out there now to really, link arms and do whatever we can to help the children. And also, we're looking at doing our 8th Open the Heavens event in Las Vegas. Right now, I have a venue secured. We just need to, it looks like it's going to be May 8th and 9th. And so we will let you know, but it's going to be in Las Vegas. God told me, and then we're done. God said to me, Anne, we have to open the heavens. This is a spiritual battle. And it was a spiritual battle. I'm in the ministry. I hear what God says to do. So we're working tandem. We've got to legislate it, but we also have to pray and be on our knees because, what we do to these little ones, the Bible says we do unto Jesus.
That's right.
So thank you, Anne, for coming on. Thanks for watching. Now is the time. Please share this with as many people as you can. And please subscribe or follow. And you know what? Sharing is caring. When you share this, that's how videos go viral, is people just start sharing it with other people. And people really need to understand that you're dealing with bonds. They're selling literally the Social Security things of these bonds. And
That's
these
right.
judges are all getting rich on it. I only found that out recently, Anne, because of what's going on with some friends around me that have had their kids taken.
Oh,
And Tony
I'm sorry.
Pellegrino, who's got the American Academy of Law, he's the private person that is seeing that all these attorneys under the bar, that, you know what I mean? He's really
yeah.
raising the bar.
Yeah. He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. I've taken my
So
life
there
into the
is-
private for that reason, Mary.
Oh, he's going after DC family court. They're going after the top ones. All you need to do is get the pink kingpin, and all of a sudden it's all they start all going down.
They start
And
all going down is right. Yeah.
That's what's getting ready to happen. Well, thank you so much, Anne. Bless you. Thanks for watching. Now is the time. Let's make a difference. Go and get the book. Do whatever you can. Is your documentary on your website as well?
It is. It's on AmericanMadeFoundation.org. Yes, you can see the documentary there. We have lots of media published there, and appreciate you giving us the opportunity to educate your audience.
Amen. Well, thank you, Anne. Anne is truly such a great journalist and a wonderful human being. And I think she's one of the best journalists out there. So really love you. And, we'll be in touch. And so thanks for watching, you guys. Please, again, share this, because I believe we're at the time of the best is yet to come for the greatest show on earth. These demons are going down. And God told me, and the greatest movies, the greatest music, even as on the Grammys, listening to Jelly Roll talk about Jesus and, Nicki Minaj talk about Trump. I mean, it was just cool watching people that are not afraid to speak up for truth and justice.
God bless them. Truly.
Amen. God bless you guys. See you soon.